Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're having a fantastic week. Well, Cherries in Focus, it's episode 4. And last weekend was a bit of a mixed bag with news, but the last 24 hours, wow, lots to talk about. What a show we've got ahead of us. So the Guernsey Grealish has signed. Max Aarons, hopefully, is the next one through the door. We're going to take a look at that final pre-season result. We're going to have a look at West Ham opening day on Saturday. We've got the predicted lineup for that. We've got your match predictions as well. You need to subscribe to Cherries Red Army because we're very close to 1,700. Hit that like button. Let's set a target at least 75 likes. The interactive chat is open. If you're live with us on YouTube and Twitter, do get involved. I'm sure Bournemouth fans are very, very happy at the moment. Let's get into it then. This is Cherries in Focus. I don't know. You spend 5 days preparing a schedule for a show and then the club drop a signing. Jon Spark, how are you? I'll tell you what, tell us how your week's going and give us one word how you describe the last 24 hours.
Bonkers, hasn't it? Been a bit. Just for confirmation, AFC Bournemouth have in the last 3 minutes officially announced Max Aarons as another signing. So we've managed to plan these at the perfect time, given that Alex Scott was only a couple of hours ago as well. But week's going fine. Work. But it's been pretty exciting off the pitch and outside of the job so far this week.
Nice shirt as well. You fell for it. Mine's on order as well. Aaron Kaye, how are you? What's your one word describing the last 24 hours?
Refreshing, because I've been refreshing Twitter every second, and the signings of the last few hours have been very refreshing as well. And the weather's been crap, so it's been refreshing all round. So that's been my word of the week. And there's another Aaron in the house, which is great to know. So you can all pronounce my name properly now.
Sorry.
Yeah, because it's Max Aarons. Yeah. So great news. And a lot to take in.
Okay, we'll get to Max Aarons in the show. We have a spot for him anyway, Steve, but we've got lots to talk about. I want to talk about Marco Senesi with you as well. How you doing? One word to describe the last 24 hours.
I'm going to use my word of the moment, and our new number one head coach's favourite word, bravo. Well done, Bournemouth. We've got some decent signings in through the door and filled some gaps. So, yeah, really exciting. I think they're both decent signings, and I'm sure we'll get on to talk about them. But, yeah, great to be back and chatting all things Cherries.
Brilliant. Right, who's joining us live right now on YouTube? Chris Hubble, how are you? Ollie Harrison, thank you very much for your time. Sammy Nell, Mark Cole, Morgan Scott, I hope you're doing well. Archie, Alan, I think's from Finland. Ollie Windsor, who's been on a show previously on a fan debate. Mark Singleton. We've also got a very good journalist. It's Jacob Tanswell. Hope you're doing well. Covering Aston Villa this season, but doing some really good stuff for the Cherries still, because he just can't get enough of the Cherries at times. Charlie Baker, how are you? We've also got Terry and Luke Andrews. Good evening. Now, before we get into the contents of this show, I do want to let you know about a few other news stuff that's going on. Well, one in particular last night, we have been drawn in the second round of the Carabao Cup South section against Swansea on the road. We'll also look at the squad numbers in a moment because they were released today. But Steve, let's get into it. Let's try and go through this, how it planned out from last Saturday. We woke up Saturday morning waiting for that final pre-season game. Didn't start very well for us at the weekend. We got that news that Castrovilli, the deal collapsed, failed a medical. Been here before.
Yeah, let's hope it's not a repeat of what happened before and the player comes back to be an absolute star. But yeah, you know, he'd been out for a while, as I think we spoke about last week. I think it was an ACL. John will correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it was an ACL. So if there's something not quite right, then I don't think it's right to take the risk on him. So yeah, they're just doing their job there. And if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. But we've backed that up with what I see as a better signing personally. So yeah, don't worry. I'm not too worried about that one. The Lorient, did we want to speak about the Lorient game quickly?
We'll come to that in a moment.
No?
So we had that Castrovilli news, Aaron, over tea and toast, and then we had the lineup for Lorient, and it had no right back in it. And we then learned that Adam Smith's injured, and things were going from bad to worse before kickoff against Lorient.
Yeah, look, I mean, we all know the window ends on the 1st of September. We all have our feelings about that. I think lots of people would love it to close before the season starts for various reasons. But you know, having said that, with the news that Smithy will be out for, well, certainly probably wouldn't make this Saturday at least. Suddenly we're putting Jaden Anthony at right back and we're trying to fill gaps. We still haven't replaced Lerma yet in that position. Obviously at that stage, there's still another, you know, couple of positions still to fill. So yeah, but you know, it was a good performance and comfortable really. Didn't think that much of Lorient. So the players got the job done and actually looked really, really good. It's difficult to tell against opposition. I'm not sure, you know, how they would compare, but yeah, we know from the last few hours that we will bring players in, and as Jacob said, there's more to come. I'm quite interested in him following up on that one. Press him for that. If you're still watching, Jacob, give us some news. But yeah, as of last Saturday, I think a few people, myself included, were thinking, yeah, there are a few weeks to go, but the season starts in a week and we're looking a little bit light.
So what we needed, John, was a bit of positivity brought into that Saturday. And we did get a very good result, comfortable result in the end. It was 2-0, a goal from David Brooks, a goal from Kiefer Moore. And talk us through it, because that's now, John, 21 games without a draw for AFC Bournemouth as a football team. But a good way to finish pre-season.
I mean, I'd love to talk you through it, but I didn't really see much of the game because I couldn't get on. Lorient initially were going to put it out on YouTube, and then they said no, they can't. They've got technical issues, so they're going to put it out on Facebook. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't recognizing my VPN. I couldn't actually watch the game. So I can comment on the goals, which, you know, in as much as obviously Kiefer Moore scored the second and was heavily involved in making sure that there was a mix-up at the back for the first, because it was a long ball up front, defenders and Moore, two defenders mistakenly went up for it with Moore, and the ball got flicked on to Dango Ouattara, who travelled down the left-hand side, crossed it in, and David Brooks on sort of the half volley, quite low down, caught it very sweetly with his left foot first time and smashed it in the back of the net. It was a really, really nice finish from Brooksy. And then the second one was quite late in the game. I don't know whether it was a short corner or whether the initial corner got headed out back to him. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was a short corner. The ball comes to Marco Senesi, who's playing in a CDM role at that point after being substituted onto the pitch, and he puts the ball into the box, and Kiefer Moore heads it away quite nicely. So that was really good to see some effectiveness from set pieces. You know, whether Moore will play enough to be able to do that through multiple games, we'll have to wait and see. But generally, it seems as though the game wasn't incredible. I think that there was decent possession without a whole lot of penetration, from what I've heard from other people that have watched it. And the other interesting was that the best player on the pitch apparently was the guy that we've loaned out to Lorient in Romain Favre. So mixed bag of a day, but generally it's a win. It's not a draw, as you said. It's been a while since we've had one of those, but means that there's definitely some positivity in the squad going into the first game of the season, because you don't want to enter the season off the back of a heavy loss in pre-season. So there's definitely positivity there in the squad to build on, I'm sure.
The second goal did have an assist from Senesi, coming to you about that in about 2 minutes, Steve. But Aaron, looking at that lineup, it was Jaden Anthony that started right back. He has had a few stints at fullback. And the other option, if you're a different type of head coach, is to potentially play Chris Mepham. But you know that you're not going to be very progressive that way. So with Anthony, you are going to get those overlaps because he's naturally an attack-minded player. That was the lineup, though. Jaden Anthony at right back. I mean, we're going to look at the predicted lineup for West Ham later. Would you be comfortable seeing him there on Saturday?
Well, he can definitely do a job. There's no doubt about it. As you say, he's got athleticism. He's he does track back from that wing position, and he'll give it everything for the team. And as you say, going forward, obviously as a winger, he'll provide what Iraola probably wants from his fullbacks, and Kirk as the other side, of bombing forward and getting good positions, because that's more natural to him. So it sort of suits the style, and with lots of wingers at the club, lots of players in Jayden's kind of positions, either on the left or the right. It might be a role he's kind of pushed into. But obviously, as we know now, we have signed a right back. Whether he's available to play on Saturday or whether he's ready to play on Saturday, I'm not sure. But look, if Jayden Anthony starts against West Ham in that position, that's clearly not probably where he's going to be playing all season, or what we want our right back to be. But I'm sure for a game he can do a job.
Okay, Steve. So we know that Lerma walked out the door, and about a month ago, we were at the village. You bought me a Corona with a slice of lemon or lime. I can't remember, but you said to me, if we don't fill that position with a really good CDM, there is another option, and that's Marcos Senesi. We walk on 4 weeks, and he comes by default into CDM against Lorient, plays very well, I'm told, and then delivers a wonderful cross for Kiefer Moore. Where did you see this?
Steve? I think we've lost him a bit. I would certainly.
I planted it so well for him as well, John. But take that away with Senesi.
I would say that Steve obviously picked out the strengths of Marcos Senesi's game and what we've seen of him so far in what he does in a centre-back role. It's I think a good few people I've seen have talked about, whether it be Senesi or whether it maybe be other centre-backs and other teams, talk about, well, he could play in defensive midfield, because they've seen John Stones walk into midfield and start sort of partially running games in an incredible Man City team. But it's not that easy. You need to be very aware. You need to be constantly checking around yourself. You need to, you've got 360 degrees of worries in defensive midfield, as opposed to just what's in front of you as a centre back. So Senesi's so good on the ball, and he's shown such an ability to drive forward, that he's got the ability on the ball definitely in midfield. And it's just about whether he has the defensive awareness. And he's shown himself to be pretty darn good at centre-back in a defensive role. So you just need just that little bit extra to be able to play that defensive midfield role well. And I agree with Steve that he probably has that in him. Whether that is a long-term solution for him as a player, and whether that would be where he could develop into, I'm not so sure it's something that he'd do permanently. But it's certainly an option, I would say.
That is the big question, isn't it, Aaron? And it's a shame that Steve lost connection there, because he was so spot on with what he's saying. And it's whether Senesi would potentially move into that role permanently if we don't sign a CDM, or whether it's just a really good option and he's proved he can do it. He might need a few more goes at it, because he only had a small stint. But Senesi will give everything, and he has all the attributes to play that position.
Yeah, well, look, without a doubt, and John kind of alluded to most of those skills really needed. I mean, I think the other thing to look at is, Meps has had a really good season last year. He played alongside Zabani on Saturday, and obviously, I think any of our kind of 4 I'd call senior centre backs, we've got happy to see any combination of those, really, because they're all fine. And as we know, we haven't replaced Lerma yet. Whether Andoni wants to replace a like-for-like type Lerma player, or whether he wants someone to sort of pivot a bit more and start attacks off and that kind of style. But Senesi, obviously can potentially do a job there. As I said, we've got the centre-backs to cover him. And what that also will mean is if the full-backs are bombing on as much as we are told that they should be under his style and his system, then Senesi can kind of just drop back in and make it a 3, and when we're defending, as an extra bit of stability. So my initial feeling is that if he really wanted to see him there as a more medium to long-term solution, he would have given him more than 15 minutes in pre-season in that position. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Welcome back, Steve. John took your moment to talk about Senesi, but it was you that predicted that Senesi could step into the CDM role and do a job. And my question to John, that I'll come to you, Steve, you saw this vision with Marcos Senesi. Why did you see it? And are you looking at Senesi as the permanent solution, or is it just a good option?
No, he's not a permanent solution. he is an option. However, I do find it quite a simple transition for good ball playing centre backs to make that step forward. I had a little bit of a sort of debate of whether it's easier for a CDM to drop into a centre back position or a centre back to push forward into a DM role. And for me, I think it's easier to sit in that CDM role and just sort of patrol in front of the back four rather than having to drop off and deal with marking a top quality striker. I think that's a completely different kettle of fish. So for me, he's class on the ball. He's got a good pass on him. He obviously can tackle. He can actually bring the ball forward very well. Go past players as well, which is something I've seen him do quite well. He started juggling and taking on, was it Trent Alexander-Arnold when we played Liverpool last season in the opposition box. So you think if you've got a guy that talented, and it must be something that he can probably take to like a duck to water. So I'm not surprised he's tried him there, but I can't see it as a long-term option. It's definitely a sort of if I need to type thing.
Okay, so that brings us up to the last 24 hours and today, and you fans will be with us live right now. You might be watching this video back on replay and you're here. One of the reasons you're here is to talk about one of our signings, and we'll speak about the other one that's literally dropped while we are streaming, but it is the Guernsey Grealish. Someone that we've been tracking for a long time. It looks like it's £20 million with about 5 million add-ons, and he has been confirmed. There is a but here, guys, but he has been confirmed as an AFC Bournemouth player. Alex Scott, there he is with the Cherries colours. Aaron, I know this is someone that you have been absolutely hoping for throughout this window. There is a but coming, but a player we've got on a 5-year deal, I think, a long-term deal with potential to grow, and he looks like he's got all the talent to shine in the Premier League.
Yeah, look, for me, this is a real coup. This was the one we really wanted. He's 19 years old. As you say, he's got the ability of a player far beyond his years. He's extremely exciting. He kind of picks up pockets. He can play centrally, which is what we need. He can play an 8. He can play a 10. He's got a lot of energy, skills, and it's as I said, he's so young. He's going to be. People have been touting about him to be an England regular in a few years' time, and that he might move on from us. But we were lucky to have him. We got him on a 5-year contract. Obviously, other clubs were looking at him, most noticeably Wolves, but apparently Tottenham were interested. But I think it's a real coup, and massively exciting for us. I think whether that means other players might be out the door or not, we can talk about that. But yeah, I think first and foremost, he's our player now for the next few years, and that's a I just cannot wait to see what he can do, because I'm really excited about it.
Steve, the club have done a really good job with the media output this pre-season. They've released everything that they normally do with a new signing, and here comes the but, and they put it in the release statement of the signing. He picked up an injury whilst training with Bristol City when the club were trying to get a deal over the line, and it's more significant than what they first thought. What is it with Bournemouth and knee injuries? This is long term. Look, we can't be short tunnel vision here. This is for the long term. But now the question is, Steve, when are we going to get to see him like Grace Dean Court and show off his talents?
Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Who knows? I don't even know what the injury is. Have we been told what the injury is?
Knee.
But specifically what it is?
No.
So if you thought it was anything really, really serious, we wouldn't have taken the risk, and he obviously would have, he would have failed his medical. But it's obviously something they're willing to take risk on, as you say, a long-term thing. If it's a month or two, then I think we can sort of cope for that amount of time, and then we're playing the long ball game, aren't we? It's sort of like, I don't really want to liken him. I don't want to call him the Guernsey Grealish. I'm sort of a man of my age wants to call him the Guernsey Gaza. That's what I'm going to stick to, because I think he's that good. Actually, I think he's got promise to be that good. I just love the way I've watched quite a lot of him since I've heard all the rumours, and it's just the way he glides past people. It's not like he's got tons and tons of real tricks and stuff like that. It's just the way he sort of jinks, body swerves past players. He plays some lovely passes. He's got a good engine, like Aaron said. So I think it's all positive, and hopefully this is just a couple of months at tops thing we've got to deal with now, and then we'll get to see him grace Dean Court and win us some football matches.
Yeah, John, he looks like he's got good balance. Those socks are very low down, just above his boots. And let's take a look
That's
at
the
his
Grealish
numbers
thing,
for
isn't
Bristol City. It is. Not quite the hair, though. Sorry, Alex.
Has he got
age
the calf,
19. Age 19, John, centre midfield, counter-attacking player, 91 games, 6 goals, 7 assists. I think he got Young Player of the Season in the Championship last season as well. And hot prospect, an opportunity Bournemouth had to take.
Yeah, it's not the kind of signing that I think Bournemouth... it's not the kind of signing you expect Bournemouth to make, because this is a player that has been well known as being one of the next big young talents for a good probably 18 months, couple years. Burst onto the scene, obviously, with Bristol City, and even when he was playing, even when Bristol City were getting hammered by Manchester City in the Cup last season, he was shining in those games, or that game. And yeah, it's as Steve said, it's I mean, we as Bournemouth fans have a hero that had one trick in Mark Pugh. But Alex Scott seemingly doesn't really have a trick per se. He's just got an incredibly low center of gravity, very quick feet, and just blitzes past a player before the guy can even react. He'll do one step over and bang, he's gone. And it is that dribbling prowess. His passing numbers don't show up all that brilliantly even in the Championship, but it's his dribbling numbers, his assist numbers, and his defensive output as well that show up really well in his stats. And he fits pretty perfectly, I would say, alongside whoever our defensive midfielder is going to be, because I would hope that that's the player that Jacob is mostly talking about us wanting to get over the line. Although we have been linked to another Norwich player very recently in the centre back Omid Babidele, but it's. Yeah, he is such an attacking, exciting player that will absolutely light up every pitch he walks onto with his ability. And it is a very different thing dominating and blitzing past Championship defenders compared to the international quality Premier League defenders and midfielders that there are in the Premier League. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm expectant, but he's incredibly young. So you've got to just give him time, let him build into what he needs to be, needs to be for Iraola, and definitely boost his fitness as well, because he's going to do even more running in this team than he was in Bristol City. So, very exciting though.
So Bill Foley sent out the orders on Monday. That's one signing. What a treat. We got 2 signings, and it's in a position we definitely need. And in this room this evening, we have one Aaron. Well, let's bring another one in. It's Max Aarons from Norwich City, right back. And Aaron, I'm going to come to you because I'm sure we've had a few discussions about this player previously on the channel. £7 million, about £3.5 million in add-ons, was potentially going to Southampton. Then he's on his way to Leeds. Then it's the second hijack of pre-season by Bournemouth. This is a really, really good price. I can't believe he's only 23 still, because he burst on the scene. The last few seasons, I can't really say he's lost his way because I haven't watched enough of Norwich, but I've not heard his name as much. But I still see a talented right back that's quick, will be progressive, and should fit the Andoni Iraola style.
Yeah, I mean, I just touched upon the fact that we were linked with Joachim Mæhle in midweek. The Danish international right back, left back, whatever you want to call him.
Is he a right back?
And yeah, I mean, he would have been a great caliber of player for sure. And it seemed that then, we kind of then switched our attentions to Max Aarons, who's apparently potentially our main priority. It is a funny one. I think it's a great price, 7 million. I think for him, he's, as you say, he's very young, 23. I can't believe that, because I'm sure 5 or 6 years ago he was a regular, 17 or 18, however old he would have been then. A few question marks over the fact that Norwich really haven't been that great in the last couple of years. If he was a standout for them, he would have left when they went down, or certainly the season, the season after if they didn't go back up. But I wouldn't say stagnated as such, but he has, as you said, he hasn't been kind of on the lips of anyone like he was a few years ago. So yeah, a question mark over that. I still question whether he'll be our long-term first choice right back, but I certainly think it'll bolster our options. And for now, he is our first choice right back. I think for that price, if he doesn't show what we think he can do, then maybe in January we'll up it, and we'll get a first choice right back in. But I'm excited to see what he can do. As I said, I'm not sure. I actually saw a tweet earlier from a Norwich fan who was saying, I can't believe that Bournemouth gave us Stacey. We've given them AARONS and made up to £12 million in it, because they're loving Stacey there. And I think he was saying that AARONS. This is only one guy's opinion. He was talking about how AARONS has always been decent, but hasn't really been stand out the last couple of years by any stretch. So, yeah, I mean, as you say, it's a position we desperately need. So hopefully a new lease of life, a new challenge for him. He's been at Norwich a number of years now. Hopefully, as I said, playing with a better caliber of player, and we'll get the best out of him. But yeah, definitely a big tick for me.
Steve, we won't know if he was our number one target, and we know that we needed a right back this pre-season, and the job of a scout and the recruitment team is to provide a list. And Max Aarons is only 23. He's had 213 games for Norwich City, 6 goals, 17 assists, most of them in the first sort of season or two in the Championship. But I look at this deal, Steve, pretty similar to Kluivert, that it's not a lot of money. I see it as a real low-risk deal, and he could grow under Andoni.
Yeah, do you reckon if he was our number one target, the club might have done a little bit of a swap deal with Stacey and got some more money off of it?
Maybe.
So,
probably wasn't.
But no, exactly. But yeah, the names we've been banding around all summer. But look, he's had experience in the Premier League. He's young enough. He's energetic enough. We know he's got good threat going forward. My concern, like always will be with defenders, is how well they defend. He's a bit small, isn't he? He's a bit diminutive in stature. So, but he's quick. So, and I liked him when he was in the Premier League. He was one of their standout players. But it is interesting why no one's come in through in that time, because he was the sort of very highly talked of player that Norwich had, amongst a couple of others I think they had. But yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we do bring in someone else, because I don't know that he's long term necessarily. It's not quite up there with the other sort of names that were banded around, with the likes of Mailer, whatever you call him.
Yep.
And I can't remember who the other guy was. It Fresneda?
Fresneda, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't. Those kind of excited me a bit more than this one. However, I think he's a very capable fullback, and like you said, it's a decent price, isn't it? It's 7 million.
I think Fresneda probably would have been double that. Mailer's in the middle, and John, it has solved a bit of a problem. Guess what? Weakness for Max Aarons apparently is aerial duels, but we're used to that because Smudge has struggled at times with aerial duels in his Bournemouth career. Yeah,
but if Aarons is going to come on and learn off anyone in terms of the dark arts, you want it to be Adam Smith, do you not? Yeah. The guy that could get a 9.8 off the diving board for the kind of fouls that he wins for us. He's smaller, and I mean, that's often the position you find the smaller players tends to be sort of in the wider positions. Yeah, I think that I can understand Steve saying that there could be improvements to Aarons, and I would agree. But at the same time, I would say we currently now have 3 right backs in our squad. We're not going to be getting another one in this season, I don't think, because no one's going to be buying Fredericks, and Adam Smith. He's in the last year of his contract as well. I don't see him going in January or any time now. So I think Aarons should provide something going forward and defensively. That's what you need from that position. And while yes, his stats don't blow away at all last season in the Championship for Norwich, he featured over 40 times, got 1 goal and 2 assists, which is fine. And Norwich were pretty poor last season. When they went up, when they yo-yoed before, and when they came straight back up after 1 season in the Premiership, it was players like Buendia that were still sort of shining for Norwich, and he wasn't in the spotlight. He was just sort of like, he was in the spotlight when he was young because he was young. He's now just decent. That's really what he is at the moment. He needs to prove he can be more than that. And in this system, with this coach that could genuinely improve him, I think it's a pretty darn decent level of signing. The only thing you just need to make sure is that he's sound enough defensively, and then he can provide that little bit going forward at times. But he should have the stamina, and he should have the physicality to cope with this system. And I wouldn't be surprised if he starts, even if he's barely trained with us. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts on Saturday.
So some really good positive news today regarding signings. Max might play on Saturday. We know that Alex won't, but we'll watch this space. But part of this episode 4, we do want to move on to West Ham. I do want to choose this moment just to thank those supporters who support the channel. We've also had another 3 coffees donated by Ron, again, who's donated many times. And we also have a new member. I'll make sure you're added to the members board for the next episode. And thank you to our current members. You can support the channel or become a member at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. But we do want to take this opportunity now to move over to West Ham, our opening day fixture in the preview. There's going to be lots of opportunity to you guys in the interactive chat to get involved. We're going to look at the predicted lineup and score predictions. But do subscribe to the channel and do hit that like button. Okay, so we kick off our Premier League campaign for the 2023-24 season at home against West Ham. And Aaron, if there's a couple of teams you'd probably want to face this weekend as an opening fixture, West Ham would be in that bracket. They a few months ago, they were winning European competitions. They then sold Declan Rice. They've only just purchased their first player. I think it's Edson Alvarez, a midfielder. James Ward-Prowse is having a medical in London tomorrow. Harry Maguire's still trying to agree terms, and they're not in great shape going into this weekend.
No, it's as with Villa last season. In some respects, it's a perfect start for us, which is because added pressure. We've got to try and get a result because West Ham, obviously, with our fixtures after that, and West Ham really are all over the place. There's murmurings about Moyes being unhappy. Obviously, they've sold Declan Rice, which they knew they were going to do. Got a very good fee for him. By all accounts, Maguire and Ward-Prowse will be coming through the door, but they won't be playing Saturday. I mean, Ward-Prowse is literally travelling to London tonight, having his medical tomorrow. Imagine the team will be travelling down to Bournemouth tomorrow. So obviously, he is fit to play because he's been playing for Southampton. But I'd be surprised if he starts because he's having his medical tomorrow. Maguire can't agree personal terms anyway, although I wouldn't be desperately upset if he was in the starting lineup. Alvarez, by all accounts, is a kind of Rice-ish replacement. Like, it breaks up plays. He's not gonna create much, but he's like a Lerma type, should I say, breaking up the play. So question marks whether he'll start. He'll obviously be a good addition for them. I did see that Downs might be going the other way as part of the Ward-Prowse deal. So if that's the case, then Alvarez might start. But yeah, look, they're all over the place. Having said that, they've still got players like Bowen. They've still got players like Paqueta. Although, again, is he going to play? Because Man City are after him and he might be refusing to play. So lots of question marks. They're not in great shape. But as we know, it's the Premier League and it can be ruthless. We're going to have to be on it, whatever happens, to try and get any result. But look, opening day, everyone wants to have a good start. But I think with West Ham, the way they are, we're at home. New coach with our fixtures coming up, I think we do need to get off to a good start. So it is an ideal time to play them if anyone.
Yeah, and I mean, West Ham fans, from what I've seen, Steve, are just very unhappy about pre-season. They're just doing their business now. Apparently, Moyes was threatening to walk out, and Paqueta now wants to go to Manchester City. And they did well against us last season, but they're probably going to have to work really hard to get a result against us on Saturday, hopefully.
Yeah, and we kind of enjoy a game against Claret and Blue side in the opening day, don't we? we usually get a little bit of a victory. I'm not tempting fate there, but yeah, they've had a bit, like Aaron's pointed out, they've had a bit of a mixed bag pre-season. They were off the back of 2 defeats and a draw, I believe, and the draw was against Dagenham and Redbridge. So it's not been great for them pre-season. Now there's rumorings of Paqueta going as well, and I think I was listening to the radio earlier of Talk Sport, and they're saying, when Man City come knocking, you know, it's not whether it sort of comes out of their hands a little bit. It's sort of you want to go. The player wants to go. So if that's got any legs, that could be a big blow to them because he's quality. And I don't look at West Ham's team, and I'm not saying it's an awful team, but he's one of their standout players. He is one of the ones that you say he's got real quality. So to lose him would be a big blow. And if he's not going to be there Saturday because of this, that all the better for us, because like we said, it'd be great to get off to a good start, because after West Ham, as we've spoken about before, it's a bit of a horrendous run. So
yes,
be good to get the motivation in the lads, good and going straight from the off, and let's hope that happens Saturday.
Well, I tell you what, let's hear from a West Ham fan. Let's get a 90-second opposition view. John, you'll love this. You'll absolutely love this, because it's Jase from West Ham Fan TV. Details in the description. Check them out. What's he got to say about his West Ham side and this weekend's fixture?
Hey guys, this is Jase from West Ham Fan TV. Just doing the opposition preview for this Saturday's game against Bournemouth. Now, looking at this game, with what's going on with the managers, the new directors, and all of this palaver, not getting the players in early, which is the most stupidest thing ever, as usual. Typical West Ham. I'm going to say a draw. All right, I'm going to say a draw. I'm not going to get too carried away and say we're going to win and all of that. But this game has got a draw written all over it with the squad depth we've got at the moment. I'm saying a draw. Right. Just quickly going through our squad. We'll have the pretty standard at the back. In the middle, Paqueta or Paqueta, some people say. He'll be the star man there. Up front, I think we're going to go with Danny Ings, to be honest. I do think he'll be the man up front for us. But all in all, our squad is very, very low at the moment. We've not got much players in. We've got no one in yet. So it's going to be tough for us. Tough game. Especially with Bournemouth and you guys. You've got your new manager. He's going to be wanting to show off a bit and all of that. So it is going to be tough for us. We're going to go for it. We'll give it all 100% as usual. Us being European champions and all of that. So we'll give everything. We'll give 100%. But I think it's got a draw written all over it, to be honest. But looking forward to the game. It's going to be fun. Can't wait. Come on, you Irons.
John, he's changed. I mean, European medal, and he's going for a draw at Dean Court. What's happened to Jase over pre-season?
That was so much more humble than I was expecting. But to be fair, no, Jase is great. But I mean, I can understand the sort of there is a chunk of negativity around West Ham. I mean, it was not long before they won that European Cup that there were very well organised Moyes out protests at the ground, and that doesn't just disappear because you had a couple of good games in a row that got you a piece of silverware. As great as that will have been, and will be some of the best days of West Ham supporters' lives, winning that European trophy. David Moyes was very unpopular last season, and he's kind of a dinosaur in the game now. Whatever the West Ham way is, David Moyes doesn't supply it. So if with the lack of signings so far, as well as James Ward-Prowse seems to be almost through the door, Harry Maguire's on his way, and obviously they've got Edson Alvarez, who will be a really good signing. There's definitely a decent amount of pessimism that's flowing around the West Ham fan base. Having said all that, as much as this is a good time to play West Ham are not a good team for us to play. And you're not going to catch me predicting a win in this game, because the last time I did that and gave it the big one, because we were playing so well up until that point, we got smashed 4-0 at home. So, I'm not We'll go into the preview a little bit more about how we'll play in the game, but yeah, I'm somewhat on the fence at the moment as to how this game is going to go for us. And just because West Ham fans don't feel like things are going well at the moment, well, they didn't think that last time they came to Dean Court, and then they beat us 4-0. So we'll see what happens.
Steve, we want to go into that predicted 11, and we do want the fans in the chat to help us as well. But you also said to me about a week ago that it's not always good to play a team that haven't done much because they know each other quite well. And we know that Declan Rice has gone out, but it's still the same manager and it's still the same bunch of players that achieved that European success a few months ago.
Yeah, and barring the sort of, I mean, that was before we've had the sort of rumourings of late of the Paquetá and the James Ward-Prowse, Harry Maguire. You know, basically they were the same 11, barring Declan Rice. So there's an argument to say they're a settled side. They know what they're doing, whereas we're a brand new set of players. Well, not set of players, but a brand new manager with a few new faces, trying a new system, and we've got to adapt. And it's how quickly we adapt to that. And you know, so there's a caveat to having a settled side and a side that's just learning a new system. However, yeah, they do look at it's not looking particularly great. I mean, I'm looking at these losses they've had, and you know, they lost to Rennes 3-1.
Yeah,
and we just beat Lorient, who I'd say we're sort of on a level with Rennes, sort of thing, roughly. You know, so that's a good sign. So yeah, bring them on. I mean, only time will tell to see how quickly we can adapt into Iraola's style and get the goals flowing.
Yeah, I think they lost 4-0 to Leverkusen last weekend as well. But let's go into that. 4-0. And let's go into that predicted 11 then. And we're going to need your help in the chat if you're live with us on YouTube. You'll see West Ham's team on the left-hand side that Jase has given us. That's his predicted 11. And what we've tried to do is start the predicted 11. A few players on the pitch already. Neto in goal. Kirkes, left-back. Zabani, one of the centre-backs. Christie in there somewhere. We're expecting him to be fit. Dom Solanke up top. Right, guys, we're going to have to do this collectively, and I'll keep popping into the chat. We've talked about Senesi doing that stint at CDM. Lewis Cook went off with a hip injury at the end of that fixture against Lorient. Do we think Senesi is going to play CDM because Chris Mepham could play centre-back comfortably? What are we thinking? Or do we think he will go with Senesi at centre-back on Saturday? Anyone?
I think he'll stick with Senesi there, personally. Yeah, because I think we've still got the likes of Cook, Rothwell, Billing that can all do a job. Billing especially has been used as a more deeper player in previous games. Not particularly want to see him there, but he can do a job there. So I don't think we're at the point where we really have to chuck Senesi in there. So I personally would see him starting a centre-back.
Agree with that, Aaron and John?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question is Max Aarons straight in this side, John? Or do we go with Jaden Anthony or Chris Mepham?
For me, Aaron starts. I think there's not, in terms of like what you need to do tactically as a fullback in this system. I don't think it's like all that complicated. You just need to take up relatively forward positions when the ball's at the back, and then just run up and down the pitch like a monster, and just get everywhere, and then you'll be perfect. You know, he's still got relationships to build. He's still got maybe fitness to build up a little bit. You could easily see him coming off and Anthony filling in there from, say, the 60th minute mark. But yeah, for me, I don't think there needs to be all that much to fit Aaron straight into that lineup. And I'd rather have a right back, even if he's not been through the door longer than 48 hours. I'd rather have a right back in that position than a winger filling in. For me,
I did see on Twitter that someone's put one thing to note: AFC Bournemouth, that Max Aarons has had a shorter pre-season due to the under-21 Euros, meaning he may not be available for Saturday. But if he is, then I would agree with John. I think he hopefully we're at home, so maybe a bit of time on the training ground tomorrow morning, if he is going to play to learn it. But yeah, look, Anthony can do a job there, and it might well be that he just for the first game only he does play there because he played there last Saturday. So toss of a coin for me.
He
Yeah,
hasn't
so
he hasn't featured for Norwich at all pre-season due to the under-21s, has he? So
Okay.
And he
that
played
was
left
his
back there.
pre-season. Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Well,
Just for you, Kurt.
just for me, it's probably going to be Anthony. But I tell you what, guys, it's nice to see that back four. So let's keep Aarons in there. But if it's not Aarons and he's not up to match fitness, probably will be Jaden Anthony. What this probably means, Aaron, is we're going into that opening day of our new era with potentially Lewis Cook playing CDM, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, said we've spoken about haven't directly replaced Jeff yet, and obviously Alex Scott is injured. I have no problem with Lewis Cook being there. I think it's been well touted that I don't think, for me, much as I'd love to see it, I don't think he's the answer there for a full season. But at the moment, that's what we have. The alternative is Rothwell. I personally, based on last season, the back end of last season, would rather have Rothwell there. But is Cook's maybe a bit more of a sitting player than Rothwell, so that's maybe the argument for him. But personally, I'd like to see assuming Rothwell is fully fit, which I think he is now. I'd like to see him in this team at the moment. When the likes of Scott are fit, then clearly that might all change. But as of now, without Scott, without a CDM, I'd like to see Rothwell in this team, but it probably will be Cook, I think.
But Steve, we've then got to probably try and get Billing in this side. I mean, are we looking at Billing as a number 6, number 8, slightly different to what he was in the last 2 seasons? Because remember, we criticised when head coaches try to take him out of that higher position. But what are you thinking? Is it Lewis Cook in there? Is Joe Rothwell coming in? Is it a double pivot with Billing?
For me, I'm with Aaron on this one. I think it'll be a sort of 4-1-4-1, and I think it'll be Kirk. I don't like seeing Billing back there. I just think he offers far too much going forward. And I don't, as much as he's good at intercepting the ball, I just think it's an absolute waste. I'd be more inclined. I think the other position will just be between Christie and Rothwell. I probably think Christie personally, because he seems to really like Christie. It's a shame for Rothwell because I don't think he's done a lot wrong, and I concur with what Aaron said. Really liked him second half of last season, but I just think he may be an option later on in the game when people start to tire. I think is what you'll see from him. But I would go Cook, Billing, and Christie in there.
The headache is now becoming clearer for Andoni, John. I mean, he's got Traore at his disposal, Philip Billing. Will he still be a Bournemouth player by the end of this window? Who are we putting alongside Christie then if it's a 4-1-4-1?
It's got to be Billing. But the thing is I would say about Billing is, like, if you were to say take this formation, that was where we got the best out of him. People can say how good he was in the Premier League. His best period for us was undoubtedly our promotion season in the Prem when he got 10 goals, 10 assists, because he played as one of the 2 8s that had defensive responsibilities, but was free to bomb on and arrive late in the box in the way that he did during the Premier League. I think Billing was wasted by playing as one of the 2 strikers when we were playing 4-4-2 for so long under Gary O'Neill. I think playing him as one of 2 strikers was an absolute waste of his ability to help in build-up, which is the whole point of him being so good on the ball and being able to pass, dribble, tackle, intercept, and do basically everything you want from a central midfielder. You want him to be able to pick the ball up deep if necessary, but you don't want him to stay there. And under Iraola's system, playing as that sort of 8 next to the sitting Cook in this case allows him to do everything on the pitch and be anywhere he wants to when we're in possession, as long as he presses correctly when we're out of possession. And that is the question mark over Billing at the moment, is that he didn't look like he really gave two pennies, without swearing, against Lorient. For the very brief period of the game that I could see, he didn't look like he was moving all that fast, and certainly didn't look all that bothered, which is the worry that I think a number of fans have had after that Lorient game. But if he's fit and committed, you've got to put Billing in there. There's no if or buts. If he's fit and committed, you put Billing in this squad.
Okay, so guys in the chat, we need 2 wingers. We've got Cliver, Traore, Utara, Brooks, Anthony, Aaron. David Brooks has probably had the best pre-season out of everyone that was part of it. And David Brooks has been hungry since the back end of last season, and surely he deserves to start on Saturday. Surely.
For all these players we brought in and hopefully we'll be bringing in, Brooks is exciting me the most. The ones we had already, because he everyone was concerned about how would he get his match fitness back. Obviously, it wasn't an injury. It was obviously a very serious illness. You don't lose your footballing ability, but there's a mentality thing. It's a strength thing. It's a conditioning situation. But he's had a full pre-season, and by all accounts, he's looking as good as he ever has done. And if that is the case, then he's nailed on to start not just this Saturday, but nailed on to be one of our most influential players all season if we can keep him fit. Because before his illness, obviously he wasn't playing particularly well because of that, as it turns out. But prior to all of that, he was one of our main players. He was, he's got so much ability, and half of me would like to see him more centrally because I still think that's his best position for us. But coming off that right hand side, I think he's nailed on. He's clinical. He looks fit. He looks fresh. He hasn't lost his pace. And I'm really excited about him. It's like a brand new signing. It's like a £30 million signing in its own right, and I can't wait. And I'm so delighted for him, and I'm delighted for us because he's got a hell of a part to play this year.
Who's taking the final spot then, Steve? Because Mark thinks it's Cliver and Brooks. Utara is another option, says Paul. Utara is at his best days generally on the right, although he did get the goal at Spurs coming off the left. Cliver is an exciting attacking player that played in Spain last year, that's comfortable on both feet, got goals in him. Who would you start on that other side ahead of Kirkes?
Can I quickly say before we move on to there that Brooks just looks to me like a guy who's so eager to make up for lost time.
Definitely.
He's so motivated and so driven to get his place back and do well for the team. So kudos to him, and it's only going to bode well for us. So good on him. Moving on to the left side, this is the trickiest spot for me. I'm really torn here. A lot of people saying Otara, and the only reason I'm a bit hesitant on that is I saw him play there against Leicester, and he was dreadful. And I seem to think all his best stuff's come on the right, although he did score for us against Tottenham, didn't he? That side. Jayden never seemingly does much wrong. He can score a goal. We know that. Chips in, and Cliver looks promising, but I just haven't seen enough for him yet. If I was going to have to put my house on it, I'd probably go with Jayden if he's not playing at right back.
Yeah, John, and we're not even talking about Traore here, but I am half thinking as we're talking about this that Anthony might end up at right back. What's your thoughts on that position?
Well, I'd say Traore just ideally doesn't play on the left for me. He plays as a 10, and at a push he plays as the 8, as the more attacking player there. But I think we haven't seen enough of him. But for me, he's definitely a central attacker. He's not one that I want to see having to play on the left. For me, it has to be Cliver. I think Anthony has a decent shout. I think Anthony could play there if he's not playing at right back. It's clear that Iraola quite likes Anthony. He's played a decent chunk of pre-season, both on the left wing and on the right wing against Atalanta. He started on the right wing, but I just don't think that worked for him as well. He kept sort of getting him and Smith kept getting in the way of each other for me. But what I saw of Cliver in that Atalanta game really excited me. I thought he had to be fair, the right wing back was Zappacosta, who is getting on a bit. But I thought Cliver had him on toast for most of that game. And a large chunk of our best attacks came through that left-hand side. The only issue was that Kirkes and Cliver just weren't combining at all. Cliver kept making good runs and never being passed to. And then vice versa would happen when Kirkes bombed on past Cliver and he never passed to him. And that would be the worry for me on that side. But for me, it has to be either Anthony or Cliver. I get why people like Dango Ouattara, but the amount of times he passes the ball backwards straight to an opposition player is shocking for a professional footballer, let alone Premier League. It's shocking how poor he is at passing the ball sometimes. This is how raw he is. He's clearly got the physical attributes. He just needs to learn to control his feet at times. But as an impact player, he's fantastic. But I would definitely start Anthony or Cliver. And for me, I would just about give it to Kluivert?
It's going to be a difficult choice. I've stuck Kluivert in there. I think there's a high chance that Anthony will play right back. And if you're watching this video back on replay, do let us know your thoughts in the comments. Put your 11 in those comments. But
So I was just going to say, I think it's good that we're having this discussion and we're so sort of torn between players that they're of a similar ilk. We're not saying that, there's one standout player for each position. Even if you go to the central position, the midfield positions, I'd be happy for Rothwell to be in there. I'd be happy for Christie to be in there. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, there's really good competition there now of a similar level.
You're right. And actually, even without Scott and I said another centre midfielder coming in, as you say, Rothwell could be there. Traore came on against Lorient and looked great. I personally think that Dango will. I'm going to disagree with both of you. I think Dango will start on Saturday because I think he played on the left against Lorient and set up the goal for Brooks. And I think Iraola is a big fan of him and aerially as well. So he scored a good goal with his head. So, but as Steve said, there's an argument for any of those three, and that's only a good thing. And Tavernier's not even fit yet, although he's out of his knee brace, which is a good sign. So he's not far off. So yeah, despite all the fact that we're saying let's bring some more players in, we've still got options. And the good thing is off the bench, if it's not working out, whoever starts out of those players, if it doesn't work out, we've got 2 or 3 to come on and, make an impact.
Yes, hopefully gone are the days of the inexperienced kids on the bench, and there are loads of options. Right. It's been great to have this episode 4. It's the first game on Saturday. It's that moment, first time of the season in this Premier League campaign where we want your score predictions in the chat. You've got 60 seconds. Do it now. What do you think the score will be between Bournemouth and West Ham? Time for your score predictions in the chat, and we'll show them on the screen as we close out episode 4 of Cherries in Focus. But let's quickly look at round 1 of the Premier League. It's Burnley taking on Manchester City on Friday night. Tomorrow night, first game. You've then got early Saturday kickoff, Arsenal against Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United against Crystal Palace, Bournemouth versus West Ham, Brighton against Luton, Everton versus Fulham, Newcastle United against Aston Villa is the late kickoff on Saturday. That's a cracker. Brentford, Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, and then on Monday night, Gary O'Neill will lead his team, Wolves, out against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Steve, quickly, what game tickles your fancy outside of the Cherries?
Well, the Burnley Man City one, just purely for the fact that it's company against Pep, and Burnley was so free-flowing in the Championship last season. He's obviously brought some of that Pep knowledge into his managerial career. So that'll be an interesting one. See how they get on. Premier League new boys again. Apart from that, I think the only other one that really sort of massively stands. I'm interested to see how Luton get on, obviously, because it's a long time coming, them being around. But Chelsea-Liverpool's the big one, isn't it? 2 big clubs, sort of both transitioned a bit last season. Both got sort of very freshened up squads. So it'd be interesting to see how that one plays out. And obviously, I'd keep one eye on Gary. See how see what it's like with Gary O'Neill balls like at Wolves.
Aaron, any other games you're interested in? Because it is a little bit of the unknown, isn't it?
All of them. Football's back. Love it. Again, my kind of eye drawn to my pessimistic side is drawn to the fact that I want Arsenal to win. I want Man City to win. Brighton to win, just to try and keep the teams I think could finish below us down there. Sheffield United, a big game for them. They're all over the shop. My tip to go 20. Everyone's tip to go 20th. They've lost their 2 best players. But starting at home to Palace is it could be far worse because Palace aren't in a particularly great shape. So it'd be really interesting to see what sort of start Sheffield United get off to. But yeah, other than that, as Steve said, Chelsea, Liverpool, obviously, sit back and watch that one.
And John, apart from the Cherries, what are you looking at?
Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool, the big ones. The other ones, quite a few of them are much early on for me, but we'll see what happens. With regards to a few of the ones that are low down the table that we'll be competing against, sort of initially, that'll be the interesting bit, I suppose, as a neutral. But for me, obviously, I'm far more focused on the Bournemouth game right now. With for those of you that aren't going and fancy joining in, I will be doing a watch along for the first game of the season at home to West Ham. So if you haven't had enough of me talking your ear off, then please do join because I'm the only voice you're going to be hearing during those 2 hours. But yeah, I to get into the score predictions to follow on from what we've seen in the comments. For me, I'm going with a 2-2 draw. I would love to be more positive, but I just see that Bournemouth's pressing style will work fantastically against the teams that want to hold the ball at the back, but West Ham don't really have too much of an interest in that. They'll hit the ball long. If Antonio plays in particular, Ings less so, but they'll just lump it long and hope for the knockdowns. And our pressing style won't be as effective as it will be against other teams. And we're still new to it. We're still getting used to Iraola. And I do think we will be very vulnerable to their set pieces. So I definitely see us getting a couple of goals, but I also see us conceding a couple of goals. And you're not going to get me to predict a win after me messing up last time and us losing 4-0 after being very confident in that particular game. So I'm going to stick with a 2-2 prediction, but obviously I will be delighted if it's better than that.
You're not. I am, because I'm excited to be back at Dean Court on Saturday. We didn't even score a goal against West Ham last season, and we've got a great chance to get a good atmosphere going and get a result. And I'm going for AFC Bournemouth 2, West Ham 1. Let's get into the chat, and then we'll come to Steve and Aaron. And Ben's in there with a humping 3-1. You know we didn't get a 3-1 last season, right? New era. Who knows? Ben's gone for 3-1. Mark Cole's gone for 2-1. Get the Memo's also gone for 3-1. Mark Singleton has gone for 2-1. Chris Hubble is going for 3-1. New era. Tell you what, new future. Let's see what happens. Ollie Windsor's going for 3-1. Morgan Scott's going for a clean sheet 3-0. Sammy Nell, the creator of the famous 3-1, is going for it. Early
it didn't
doors,
exist before, Sammy.
Paul Faulkner's going for Brooks and Kiefer Moore 2-1. We've got a 4-0 to the Cherries. Cameron Meach is going for 2-1. Charlie Baker's going to match that. Pete's going for a clean sheet 2-0. Wing is going for 1-1. Alan's going for 2-1. Paul's going for 3-2. Luke's going for a heart 3-0. Head 3-2 loss. Come on, Luke. Come back in with a Cherries win. Ray's going for, Paul in Australia is going for 1-1. There we are. We've caught up. Steve, your first score prediction of the season. What is it?
Well, I kind of like the fact that John's gone for a draw, since we haven't drawn a game for how long is it?
21 games.
So the likelihood is John's probably going to get this right. It's got to happen at some point. Do you know what? I'm so optimistic of everything that's happening around the club at the moment on the pitch side of things. And Eddie Howe's, sorry, I had to drop that in. I had to, so Eddie Howe's first game against West Ham, anyone remember?
4-3.
4-3. I thought it was 4-3 at Upton Park.
Iraola's first game against West Ham, 4-3.
Wow. I tell you what, that'll be a cracker. And we won't be drunk either, Steve, because there's no 1910. Aaron.
Where are we meeting before the game, more to the point?
Not sure. Phoenix has come in with a couple of scores.
We're just drinking White Lightning on the pit on Kings Park. That's all we can do.
Aaron, your first score prediction of the season. Bournemouth, West Ham on Saturday.
Yeah, look, I am confident. As we've said, we're far from the finished article. There are players still to come in. If we were playing anyone but 3 or 4 teams, I'd be less confident. But West Ham are one of those 3 or 4 teams I really want to play right now. We will go 2-0 up. We will blow them away right at the beginning with our high press and our intensity. Then they'll get back in the game. They'll get a goal back from a set piece, and we'll be hanging on, and then we'll score a third on the break, and we will win 3-1.
Brilliant. 3-1 straight in there. Didn't happen last season. Surely got to happen this season. Please do subscribe to the channel. As John said, we will have a watch along that he'll be delivering on Saturday. And to bring you up to speed with Cherries in Focus now the season's starting, do stay in control of checking us out on socials and the notifications in YouTube, because Cherries in Focus will likely move to a Monday, maybe a Tuesday, so we can react to the games from the weekend and then focus on the next one as well. So we'll bring you up to speed with that, and we'll confirm 100% what that will look like. But thanks for joining us this evening. Do hit the like button, do subscribe. John, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to Saturday, and best of luck to everyone going to the game.
Good luck. Do get behind John on the watch along on YouTube. Aaron, hope to see you at the game. Thank you very much this evening.
Yeah, pleasure. Look forward to seeing whoever is there on Saturday.
And Steve, thank you very much. Hope to see you as well on Saturday.
Yep, I'll be the one with the brolly and the brown paper bag, drinking out of that on Kings Park.
Thank you to you, the fans, for joining us interactively. If you watch this back on replay, please do put your score prediction in the comments. But pre-season has gone. Saturday is opening day. And although Alex won't be part of the squad selection, what's important right now is that we Scott our man. Until the next one, from me, John, Aaron, and Steve, take care. Look after yourself. Enjoy the rest of your week. Come on, the Cherries.
That was genius. That was.
Up the
See you
Cherries.
on the next one. Up the Cherries.
Bravo.
Up the Cherries.